I've been going to a lot of big society events like this and not like this, probably about 20 since June. And two things that I get asked most frequently. One, what is the big society? It's a bit vague, isn't it? Heard that already today. And the other, which I've also heard today, is, isn't it just a fig leaf for cuts? In terms of what the big society is, I know you've had the government's line, but the way that I kind of would describe it is something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. Something old. Actually, there's quite a lot of consistency in many of the kind of principles that underlie the big society. Empowerment, localism, devolution. We've seen that stuff from the last government, and in many respects, it's a continuation of the policies that they were pursuing. Something new. I think there is actually something that goes beyond the kind of the empowerment, the localism agenda. If you look carefully, the language has shifted. We've stopped kind of hearing about participation and involvement, and it's moved up to talk about co-production and co-design. And I think the ambition is much greater. Certainly we didn't really hear much about public sector mutuals, about nurses taking over running wards. So I think there's something new there as well. Something borrowed. Clearly, they're borrowing community organising, the kind of model of Alinsky in the US that Barack Obama was involved with. Free schools are borrowed from Sweden. So there's something borrowed. And something blue. I mean, you can argue how consistent with kind of conservative philosophy big society is. Certainly you wouldn't have heard Margaret Thatcher, there's no such thing as society, talking about big society, but any sort of society. But if you listen to Mr. I was going to say Mr. Bollocks, because that's what he was called in The Guardian. If you listen to Philip Blond, if you listen to Philip Blond, he talks about a long-standing tradition in conservative thought, dating back to Disraeli, the idea of one nation conservatism, of a moral responsibility on all of us to look after those within society who are more vulnerable. Then you can argue as well that there's a kind of a conservative tradition that is in line with big society. So that's kind of how I like to get my head around it. Is it a fig leaf for cuts? To be honest, we don't know. We can't tell, and I would kind of question whether it's actually worth asking or trying to answer that question. We're getting them both at once, so who knows? And actually, does it really matter? The fact is, big society is a long-term kind of vision. We're not going to see whether it's about rolling back the state or whether it's about some transformation of the relationship between citizen and state, or it's a bit of both or whatever. We'll see in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time. But I don't know that we can actually answer that question. I mean, as an aside, it's really interesting. We're in a unique moment in history where we are in the midst of an experiment in economic policy. And we will see in 18 months' time or so whether George Osborne is right, that we will avoid double-dip recession by scaling back public spending, or whether Alistair Darling and others on the left are right, and actually you need to invest in order to avoid kind of the stagnation in the economy. We'll see. It's quite interesting for geeks like me. So those are the two questions I get asked a lot, and hopefully some thoughts on how you might answer them or avoid answering them. I wanted to just think about, I guess, what I see as the three challenges in the big society, assuming that there are things in there that we can grasp. And I think that the approach to big society policy formation is quite different with this government. We've got quite used, I think, with the previous government to being presented with a fait accompli and said, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and we all run around thinking, gosh, how can we make it fit, how's it, and scrabbling around with the details. What they're saying now, and I think this is likely to continue, is here's our ambition, this is kind of where we want to get to, it's up to you to fill in some of the detail, and I think it's a very different approach to policy formation. So, three challenges, I think, that really need to be addressed if we're going to make sense of or grasp some opportunities that may be there. The first is around fairness, George Osborne's favourite term. Now, I suspect that might change under the pressure of constant barraging from the Institute of Fiscal Studies. Fairness and inequality, there is a real risk that actually creating the opportunities within the big society that those opportunities aren't distributed evenly, aren't taken up evenly, and the people best equipped to take advantage of new opportunities are those more affluent areas and communities that have the skills, the knowledge, the resources to take advantage of them. And the evidence in Sweden from the free schools is not particularly heartening. They haven't seen increases in attainment or in inequality. So we need to be very careful. And I think actually that Nick Hurd and some of the governments are beginning to get the message. Because if you say, right, you want to set up a free school, go ahead. Where I live, nice affluent, leafy kind of part of London, we say, okay, yeah, we'd like some of that. So we take all the resources, local authorities have got no say, and they then have less money to direct to areas that have more need. So there's a real risk around equalities and kind of fairness. The second thing, and this is, I guess, an illness of politicians of all hue, that they feel the need to kind of say, oh, we're doing everything differently, and so, not invented here. So there is a real risk that everything that is big society, and we know is doing good stuff, will be instantly dismissed. They throw the baby out with the bathwater because it's not new and shiny. And I think we have to find some way of proving to governments, locally, nationally, that we are contributing to the vision of the big society. I mean, of course, if we wish to go down that route, then just duck out and do your thing, which is another good strategy. But I think that the reason for that is they know, and I think it's a fair point, they know that there are some vested interest and reactionary forces, people who want to maintain the status quo. And if you're going to achieve transformation, you need to address those. But the trouble is, they don't really have a filter mechanism to say, is this good and doing big society, or is it going to inhibit it and prevent us from really kind of pushing through quite dramatic change? So they don't have that filtering mechanism, therefore they go, all bad, who's got some new ideas? But there's definitely a risk and a challenge in ensuring that we don't forget the huge learning and expertise that's out there. As I say, that's not particular to this government. The last government had a bit of a kind of, moment where they completely forgot about neighbourhood renewal and decided to walk away from billions of pounds of investments. Yeah, that had delivered some real results, anyway. So, and the third challenge, I think, is the lack of clarity over the role of local government in big society. It's absolutely bonkers, and I think that partly it's because Eric Pickles, I'm not convinced he's really bought into big society, but partly I think that the architects of this didn't really think it through because they see vested interest in local government, voluntary community sector, as I said before. So they've not really articulated that, and in particular the role of councillors. Now, you cannot hope to achieve the sorts of vision that they have without engaging local government and without local government playing a leading role. They are, after all, our elected representatives. They have huge resources at their disposal. However bad the cuts might seem, the spending is still next year going to be round about the levels it was in 2006-07. Did anyone feel as kind of worried and depressed and nervous then, 2006, as we do now? No. So, we need to put it in context. There's still a huge amount of resource to be mobilised, but we need to have a greater, clearer role for local government. And also I think that there's a critical role for them to play in mediating the tensions and the trade-offs and the inevitable kind of compromises that will be needed for some very, very challenging decisions ahead. So I think that's the third challenge, is to articulate and provide a strong role for local government. Three suggestions on kind of survival strategies, because it is a game of survival, and be under no illusion, it's going to be a bloodbath. But three ways we can maybe increase our chances of survival and of grasping some of the opportunities. Number one, I think we need to recognise this is a long-term thing. We've got to play the long game. It's very easy for us to focus on the short term, the cuts, the pain, the inevitable pain, and the problems that often we will be saddled with within the voluntary and community sector. So not only does our money go down, but the demand on our services goes up, kind of double jeopardy. But we have to look beyond the short term, because there are opportunities to shape the future, the long term, and big society does offer some. But if we don't do that, if we don't make sure our voices are heard, then you can bet your bottom dollar that other people will be doing that. And are you convinced that they will be, have the same views and values that we might not? So it's critical that we recognise the long-term game. Second, I think we need to, this is a bit a Barack Obama phrase, we need to reach out. We need to reach out to local governments. I think that if we have a stick, okay, there are two ways of looking at a stick. You can either beat them over the head, or you can use it as an olive branch, right? So, same object, but the approach is very different. Local government did not ask for this settlement. They didn't tell central government to slash their budgets. Okay, so they are in the midst of some very, very difficult decisions. Can we offer them something? Can we be positive, constructive, some solutions, ideas, help them to manage those tensions and those difficult decisions which they're having to make? So I think that we can choose to approach the value of our stick in a very different way. And thirdly, I think we need to accept that things need to change, and fast. We cannot be wedded to the way that things have happened and the ways that we've operated for the last 10 or 20 years. It's simply not going to be feasible for the most part. But within the voluntary and community sector, we know how to innovate. We know how to be creative and find solutions in the midst of scarcity and adversity. We know how to get by with very little. So let's share some of that. Let's use that creativity, that ability to innovate in order to find new ways of doing things. And it will be difficult, but we need to focus on the opportunities. It's very, very hard to do that blue skies thinking when there's so many dark clouds overhead. But if we don't, the opportunity will be lost and others will steal those kind of glimmers of light that big society might present. Thank you.